come up with some areas, some spiritual concepts that we have been working on over many years in Raja Yoga meditation, and want to share them. Some of you have been regulars for many years, so you probably have something to share yourself. Before we do meet Brad, I do want to ask you to do one thing, and it's very easy. I want you to just think about, for the next few minutes, what optimism means to you, what it feels like, and it could just be one word. What comes to mind, what image, and you can put it in the chat. And I'm not sure, we had talked about possibly letting you comment verbally, but then we said no, and I'm not sure if that's possible because that's not what we planned. But if it is possible, Nita, if anybody does want to share. If not, we can just ask you to put something in the chat and we can take a look at it later, okay? So what comes to mind when you think of optimism? And I know I've been talking to people over the last few weeks, and everybody's got a different opinion, a different feeling about what optimism means to you. So image, feeling, whatever. It can even be one word, a few words. So I'm going to give you a few minutes right now just to think about optimism. Maybe, Patty is saying brightness. That's a nice word for optimism, brightness. And I'll just say a few things that I really, as I've been thinking about this, I was asking a few people how they feel over the last few weeks. And what I heard was one person, I didn't even mention the word optimism. What I heard was depressed. Someone told me when they wake up in the morning, they're depressed. And then they get going and it gets less. Someone else told me, these were just, I don't mean random people, but people that I had met. Another person told me they were very angry about what's happening in America and in the world. And another person just said the big fear, the fear of uncertainty and the fear that life wouldn't go back to total normal as it has in the past. And those are just three people. And I thought, that's definitely not optimistic about the world, is it? That's kind of really a feeling of the opposite of optimism. And I think that if anybody else wants to put something in the chat, I see someone said positive thinking. Okay. Another person, thank you for your response. Happiness. So I think optimism is probably a mix of all. Let me see. I see one. Knowing there is another path. Beautiful. They're all beautiful. And I know, what I've been thinking about is that optimism can fluctuate. It shouldn't. And that's kind of what our aim today is, to kind of get more stable with this idea of optimism. But optimism can fluctuate. Everything's good in life. Business is good. Your family is good. Life is good. You can be very optimistic, right? You can be optimistic about your future. You think you've got your retirement in. People are happy when they know that they're secure, when everything is okay with their future, not just future, but with their day-to-day activities. But as soon as something, you lose something or something becomes insecure, whatever it is, all of a sudden the optimism I feel like it just sort of drops out of you. Or I know for myself, this just a feeling of, what's going to happen? How? Oh, another one. Being open is another response to what optimism means to them. And one more, having a favorable attitude. So these are all beautiful. I don't really have to say anything more about optimism because these are all so good. No, so I think it fluctuates depending on what's going on, or it can fluctuate. And that, to me, again, is the aim of today. Is maybe we can think about these things deeper, some of these concepts, and realize how we can bring them into our lives. And optimism, to me, it's a way of being. It's an attitude about life where everything is okay. Everything is going to be okay. Something bad happens, it's still going to be okay. Something uncertain, we're not sure, well, that's fine. And I don't want to get too much into the difference between positivity and optimism because they're too intertwined. Everybody has a different feeling about it. But I think what I like about the word optimism is I think it's you're saying that everything is, you know, maybe in flux, or there might be a problem in my life, but everything will work out. So there's that feeling of it might not be good now. There's that reality, because I don't think that we can just avoid problems and just say everything is fine. And sometimes I think that's positive, like everything's great, everything's fine, even though inside we're going, it's not fine. I am sad. You know, I am going through something. And I know myself that when I have been through things, I feel better when I maybe share something, say, yes, you know, I've been through this situation, I'm going through this situation, but I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm doing fine. So that to me is like reality and, you know, effort, and knowing that everything is going to be okay in the end, not necessarily the second, and that I am growing and I'm learning. So, I mean, that's my take on optimism. And there's a lot more, because I think there's so much that goes into it in order to get to that stage. And that's where the spiritual effort lies, because it's a long process. And I want to introduce our special facilitator today, Brad, right now, because Brad has been at this for a long time, 34 years. Brad, I will also add that he happens to be my cousin, my first cousin. And it was 34 years ago. I was practicing for a year. I invited him to a program just because I didn't think he had anything to do that night better to do. And we had a program at my house. Little did I know he would end up at the center the next day and has never left. Well, he only leaves to travel around the world, as he does for his business. And so it was like kind of an amazing journey, you know, with a cousin that really got into Raj Yoga. And 34 years ago was just, you know, very few people were doing this or practicing this. And I've watched him grow in an amazing way. So for those of you, most of you do know Brad, but I don't know if you know everything about him. And I just want to say, you know, he is an executive. I see something coming on the screen. Is that on, or I'm not sure. It's beautiful. Okay, as long as that we're still there. And Brad is an executive at a fashion company, clothing company, Perry Ellis. And that work has led him to travel all over the world for many, many years, working with factories and representatives and designers and everything from, he's been in Vietnam and China and Italy and you name it. Brad's been there, living for months at a time in these different countries, but not just living there and working, going to centers, going to classes. When I have been on trips, and I'll maybe stop at a center, you know, on a family trip over the years, everybody knows Brad. Wherever I've been, it could be Vietnam. They go, oh, Brad. It could be I haven't been to China, but wherever. Turkey, everybody knows Brad. So also Brad knows many, many languages. Brad, you can chime in here, like about 7 languages you speak, and he's an incredible, as you all know, if you've been to the center or been to programs, he's a consummate vegetarian chef. So he lives his life embracing optimism, right? Brad, you can jump in now.
Yes, true,
and I'm glad to see you. I haven't seen you in a while since I'm up in New York, and you're in South Florida. It used to be the other way around because you just moved from New York. And I was in Florida, and I'm coming back this weekend. But anyway, Brad, I just want to ask you, how has meditation and your meditation practice inspired your optimism over the years? And again, I know you have been through, I don't mean to say terrible things, but you've had your challenges, you know, with work, living, family, just things like we've all had. And I was wondering how optimism plays a part in that and with your meditation practice.
Okay, well, hey, good morning, everybody. Yes, so I started, as Meredith said, 34 years ago. I actually went to the center because I badly hurt my foot and I was in a lot of pain. And I thought maybe I would be able to control the pain and feel a little bit better. And little did I know it was going to be a life-changing experience that first week that I did go to the center. A lot of questions that I had were answered during that week. It was a 5-day course. And when I finished the course, I felt this is what I'm going to be doing. However, I did start traveling. I was working for my company at the time, and I was going overseas. And at that time, there were not a lot of centers. So I was kind of like on my own. So I took a very slow road to, to get started. But it's been an amazing, amazing ride. Sometimes even lately, I've been pinching myself a lot. I can't believe that this is actually my life. It's been so enriching, and I've had such amazing experiences with it. It's been such a big help. I love the fact, the thing for me is every day when I wake up, you were saying how people wake up depressed or angry or fearful. I actually wake up every day, especially during COVID, I've woken up every day extremely excited. One of the things that I'm excited about is I feel there's a lot of change in the air. And even though there is fear and there is anxiety and worry, a lot of people are like waking up. But I'm also always excited. The meditation is, one of the things that I love about it is that it allows for endless opportunities of growth and transformation. And I love the fact that every day I can wake up and I'm able to change something in myself, or I'm working towards that. Getting rid of a lot of negative things, but also even the good qualities and good things that I'm able to refine things and polish those things up. So I love the fact that I'm constantly on the up and up. I find that very exciting. Someone's gone. Okay,
yeah, I can hear.
Someone else came on. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think the meditation has given me a clear understanding of what's happening in the world right now and why it's happening, and it's all leading towards some changes that are going to be happening hopefully for the good. So for me, the optimism is hope for the future. And I do think that even though things look like they're apparently bad, that there is a big shift, and that's also very exciting. But, we go to India every year. A lot of us have gone to India, and I've had the, just going to India yearly, and also in my travels, having been able to spend a lot of time with the senior teachers of the organization, some of them that are still alive. They started in the school in 1937. But we have an army of amazing people that are teachers and seniors and stuff. And I've seen they're the most optimistic, most hopeful individuals that I've ever met. And their vision of the world has been optimistic, and even their vision towards us individually as students is very uplifting, and they see all of our higher selves and stuff. And that's given me that it's rubbed off on me a lot. That's had a huge influence on me, just being exposed to that, having the fortune to being exposed, seeing that level of optimism and hope, and for individuals and for the world. So that's all contributed to my sense of optimism. And I've been naturally anyway more of a happy, optimistic person, even from birth, which I think has helped. And it's not to say I don't have bad days, but I still, even if I fall off the saddle, I get on very quickly and I continue on my journey. So it's been very exciting, very enriching. And yeah.
Great. Brad, what comes to mind when I'm sitting here hearing you speak? And I know you've given me great advice over the years. You're really good with, and I know you don't just do it with me, where just people talk to you and you just zoom in, right? Exactly, hone in on what it is that they need. And you can actually just turn a person around. You really do, A person goes, oh, I lost my house, and they're crying, and it's not, I didn't go through this, but I've seen things like this happen with you talking to people, and you go, great, this is going to be, change your life, this is going to be fantastic. And you seem to be able to do it in a way that others can't, because sometimes we can come across like unrealistic and even weird, if we look at people and we respond to people that are going through heavy things. And you've been around people who are going through heavy things, and yet you're able to just let them see things in a different way. Is it your enthusiasm, do you think, that kind of makes the difference?
Yeah, I think it's enthusiasm, but more importantly, I really don't like seeing people in distress. I have this feeling all the time that I want to do whatever I can to take somebody out of a state of sorrow or distress or confusion. So there's like this thing inside me. Whenever I come in front of somebody, how can I serve this soul, and what can I do to maybe help them shift a little bit? So that's something that's deep within me. I think I've always had that, And now that I'm in, and now with the situation that we're in currently, I think that it really has to come to the forefront, and we all need to be doing that. But even when I go into the office and there's a lot of stress in the office, we fired like 1,200 people in my company, we fired 2/3 of the company and whatnot. And now even more so, I feel like I need to, walk that talk. And I noticed that it does have an impact on people. That always inspires me. People, even yesterday, someone was telling me that I've changed. I've been away from the Miami office for 17 years. I was in other offices, New York and Hong Kong. And I just came back. I came down for a week in March, to spend a week, and I never got back to New York. And so I kind of got stranded and stuff. And even within that, like my whole life got, it changed on a dime, and I just find it exciting. Like I'm into the idea of change, something new, so I've just decided to move down here and leave a life in New York where I never thought I would leave. But I'm just always aware of what's going on with people. I think one of the things that I love about meditation, that it's definitely heightened my intuitive abilities and powers in a way. And so I kind of can see when someone's going through something, and it doesn't even have to be words all the time. It's just sometimes I know just a smile or energy, or that, a little twinkle in the eye that we know is very powerful. So, yeah.
I think of you, Brad, as like the traveling yogi, I'm not just traveling to the different countries, but wherever you are, there's this desire to serve. And it's the one-on-one relationship that really, I think, makes the difference. And an example, I get a phone call from you. Oh, guess what? I was in the, driving in the Uber in New York City, and all of a sudden I started to talk with the Uber driver. We became best friends, and now he's going to the center. This doesn't just happen once in a while. This happens constantly. People are all over the world going to centers because of your enthusiasm. So is it your enthusiasm, your excitement about what you know, the knowledge?
If I tell a little story. So a few years ago, a friend of mine went through a really bad divorce. She has 5 children, and she was really going through a rough time. And she decided she wanted to go to a psychic, and she asked me to go with her. She'd never been to one. She was scared. So I went along, and when the psychic started talking to her, she saw all these issues, and she told her, you're going through a trauma, your children are going through a trauma, and you're lying in bed at night worrying, and et cetera, all this stuff that was going on in her life. And after the reading finished, she turned to me. I was just sitting, I didn't go for myself. She said, "Do you want a reading?" And I said, "No, not really. I don't need it." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, I see all of this white light around you, and I see people actually dressed in white standing behind you." Of course, in meditation school, everyone's wearing white, and it's all about light and white. And I said, "Okay, let's go for the reading." So she did the reading, and it was amazing. And when we left the psychic, my friend turned to me and she says, "Well, gosh, you were lucky. Your reading was amazing, and mine was so negative." And I said to her, "That's not happenstance. It's not a lucky thing. I have for years, I've created a vision in my mind of how I want my life to be, and how the quality of people around me, and how I see the world, and it's always been very optimistic. So I've created this world in my mind, and so I think the universe delivers. Like I sometimes feel it's like, especially nowadays, by creating that positivity and optimism, I sometimes feel that things come in front of me. Like it's almost like it's like a spiritual Amazon, the Prime, like one click, you see something and you click it and the next day it's delivered. And all of a sudden things are starting to materialize, all kinds of things, not just material, but just experiences and just a lot of things have been happening that are just amazing. And I just feel like I created that in my mind. I've always created that. I've always maintained that. Even though I have a bad day or, something goes wrong, but I've always kept that strong vision of how I want to see my world.
That's very interesting because I was reading something by the famous psychologist, Martin Seligman, and I'm looking here to see if I can find it. I had wanted to share it. And he talked about Martin Seligman. He's a positive, works in the positive psychology movement. He's a leader. And he defines optimism as reacting to a problem with a sense of confidence and personal ability. And he says that optimistic people believe that negative events are temporary and they see benefit in everything. But I think that sense of confidence in your, you know, in yourself and personal ability is a very big part of, you know, creating and cultivating optimism in your life. Because without that confidence in yourself, what happens? I think it's pessimism, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I know myself, it's often, oh, I can't do it. I was playing basketball with my grandson here in New York, and I said, and he suddenly made it harder, you know, the basket, the points, or I had to throw the basketball in the basket farther away. And suddenly, he's 7 years old, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, you know. He could. He's been working on this for months. And I said, I can't. I can only get the ball in the basket if I'm closer to the basket. And he looks at me and he goes, Mima, he calls me. He says, you can do it. Believe in yourself. He goes, believe in yourself. And I went, okay, let me try again. And guess what? I started to get some of the balls in the basket. All I did was repeat that to myself. And it happened. I didn't do so well. I haven't won one game with him, but I was able to at least get the ball in the basket sometimes. And I felt very good about myself. So that was, you know, I didn't have the confidence, and I was telling myself, I must be repeating so much, you know, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I think I do that in other things in my life. Like maybe we all do at some level, whatever it is. So with you, do you think it's just that self-confidence that you have, you've developed, that whatever happens, you'll be able to handle it?
Yeah, in the spiritual sense, I've developed confidence. I'm not always confident in everything that I do, certainly not. But when it comes to that inner world and whatnot, I do feel it's growing. It's something I'm working on. It's a work in progress, but I do have it to some degree. You're right.
Yeah. I think we've kind of focused on our first concept, spiritual concept, and I think we've kind of gone through that naturally, which was give up worry and doubt, worry, fear, and doubt, right? That's, if you want to just say anything more about that, we can move on to concept number 2, which is the answers to problems come from within, and be aware of what it is that you're thinking. Pay attention to your thoughts. So give up worry and fear. Is there anything that you want to add to that when a person really is worrying about that job? And I've been there for a lot of these classes in the past, whether it was at Perry Ellis or Royal Caribbean or NBC, and people are very fearful. And that was before COVID. So I can't even imagine now, you know, right? I mean, like you said, you had to let go of a lot of people. I mean, that's a biggie in terms of one's life, not knowing what's going to happen to them in a time of great unemployment. So how do you approach that, even for yourself or for others, to tell them be optimistic and don't worry about, you know, your fear?
Yeah, that's a lot of people, you know, come into my office with a lot of worry and fear. A lot of people that I work with on a consistent basis, I use this word, but I retrained them. I let everybody know, this is like when you come into my office, we're not going to be, you know, being worried and fearful and whatnot. And I've asked people the question, like, where does worrying get you? Explain it to me, because I said, I'm confused. Like, you're worrying, you have a problem, there's something's going wrong. Explain to me, how does worrying help you? Fear and anxiety. Like, I'd like to know, like, how it's going to help you come to a solution to resolve this issue at work, let's say, for instance, or whatnot. And then people kind of can't answer me. And I tell them, look, you know, anything that you've any problems that you've had in the past, like you've already resolved it, you've moved forward already. Like, what happened 2 weeks ago? Like, what was that problem that you came in about? And they go, I can't remember. I said, exactly, you can't remember it because you solved it, and maybe the outcome wasn't perfect, but you went past it, and now you're at another problem. So let's fast forward to 2 weeks from now, when you're not going to remember that we were sitting here talking about this problem. So where are you? You know, where is that taking you, the worrying and the fear? For me, and I still sometimes, you know, I get a little worry or doubt, but I find that it's like a fog rolls into my brain. Like, one of the things about meditation I love is the clarity that you have in the mind. There's a clarity and getting those intuitive powers. And all of a sudden, if I get a little bit, even the slightest bit emotional or worrying, like all of a sudden that's out the window, and it's not helping me to be able to get, to a solution to something or resolve something, whatever it is. So, and I always tell people, which we learn in Raj Yoga, is that there is undoubtedly always a benefit and a silver lining to every single thing that happens that looks apparently wrong. There is always something. For me, I become wiser. I became more empathetic. I become more experienced. It's helped to build confidence, going through problems and things. It helps to build some sort of a stamina of sorts and things. So I always tell people, whatever you're going through, there is going to be some benefit. You have to look for that. And instead of being like worried about something and anxious, I said, just, replace it. Like, at work, especially, I say, look, instead of, you can care about things. You can be responsible. You can be passionate. And you can make plans, to solve problems and to, figure things out. It doesn't have to be, worry and whatnot. But I do feel that worrying I tell people, I think it's a bad habit. I mean, there are things, there's no doubt that we have things going on in our lives and we see everything going on in the world. But for the most part, most of us have had a long history of worrying. And it's a bad habit. Like, it's almost addictive. People, I believe, I always say to some, if you could take a pill, swallow that pill and be happy from tomorrow going forward, would you swallow the pill? And sometimes people have to think about it. I think, sometimes we're addicted to the drama, and sometimes we're drama queens, and we don't want to let go of all these things. But I do think it's a bad habit. And I sometimes I think it could be as easy as just like flipping a switch in my brain, like just having this realization that I don't want to live this way anymore. And I do that to myself all the time. I don't want to live with worry. I don't want to live with fear. I don't want to live with anxiety. I don't. And why do I have to go through this long and winding road to get out of that? I can just make it happen. When I travel, luckily the company I've flown for many years, they put me in business class. And one of the things that's the great thing about business class, my favorite part, is immigration. When you arrive in a foreign country, you get fast tracked. Everyone else is waiting in line, and you just zoom right through. And I always say, God, thank God for, being a fast track. So I said, what's in that line over there? It's like this long, winding, snaking line. It's worry and anxiety and fear and all those things. And I just can zoom right ahead and get out of immigration quickly. So I like to use that in my mind. Like, why can't I just fast track? Why can't I just jump and just let go of all that worry and fear? It's just a mindset. I tell people that you can do it, that everything will work out to some degree. And even if the outcome is bad, I mean, again, like I said, there's benefit to everything. I've never had a bad experience where I didn't learn something and it made me stronger, made me more optimistic, actually. So.
Great. I think
just say
want to believe it, but, I think it takes a lot of practice, in terms of really grasping these concepts. Like, yes, we've learned this through, our teachings that we take, and I'm sure there are other spiritual philosophies that say similar things, but you have to keep getting it almost on a daily basis to be able to really, really grasp it and to live with it. Because again, I think, yes, I can be, not afraid, not worry about this, and this. But then all of a sudden something else jumps out in my life that's like, whoa, I never expected this. Why did this happen? I mean, I remember going through something in the last year where I said, before COVID actually, with my husband being really ill, you're right, your cousin Barry. And I remember saying my life, I said it to a lot of people, my life doesn't look the same way anymore. I had a normal life before. And then when I became aware of what I was saying, I stopped it. Because that was such kind of almost like a feeling, like a worrying kind of thing of what's my life going to be like in the future. And once I stopped saying that, because our words really affect how we feel, I started to see the magic of everything. And even though we were going through something as a family, it was very, very difficult. It started to be very beautiful and very magical. And so my life wasn't the same, but maybe I was in the hospital all the time, with him. And yet the hospital became kind of my spiritual service place. I was able to just say, okay, who do I get to meet today? What nurse and what, I remember a nurse, Veronica told me, showed up at the center after I talked with her. One did, the others that I talked with didn't, but one was like, wow, I was so excited. And I think it takes practice, constant, like basketball, like tennis, like anything we do, study, right? You can't just master it in one day. You really have to put this effort in, which obviously you have and many people at the center have over the years. And there's always more, right? Room for more growth. I want to move on to the second concept, again, which kind of connects to everything, is that just the answers to these problems we're having that take away our optimism come from within. Sometimes I think, to be aware of what you're thinking often, and again, I'm sharing my own personal things, I'll start asking people, what should I, certain people, not everybody, well, what should I do about this? Or what should I do about that if I have a situation? And it might even be, our teacher at the center. And what I know is the truth is that I have to get the answer myself. Sometimes it's good to hear people's thoughts, but the answers to our problems in life and situations are going to come from that inner self, aren't they? And so I was wondering how you connect on that level. Do you meditate? Do you ask yourself a question? What do you do? If you have a situation, and I can't hear you, so I don't know if you're on mute. Not sure.
Yeah, hi, I'm off on
Okay.
mute now. Yeah, no question. The meditation practice is like key to everything. Is going into that deep silence and connecting with a higher energy is definitely the main thing that has to be done. But I'm really aware these days of how I talk to myself. Like the kind of words that I use, like you were saying, how you're saying I can't, and I do the same thing. It's like I like to say I can't also. There's many things that I don't like to do, and I do this, or I don't want to do this and stuff. So I find that I need to change the way I talk to myself, and it isn't easy. But I'm being much more aware of my thoughts and how powerful they are, and I'm also, I always have this thing. I'm a little superstitious about anything that I or worry about. I find personally that I almost invoke it to happen. Like when I'm constantly thinking of something is going to happen, or something could go wrong, it invariably does go wrong. So I'm really careful about not putting those negative things in my mind. I'm real careful about that these days. Like, and I still slip and stuff, but I'm really trying to talk to myself in a different way. And it does take effort. It's an ongoing, it's a work in progress type of thing. You just have to keep working at it and chipping away at it. And I just don't see especially in these times, I don't think there's any other option. I think that we just, everybody just needs to start, working on this. And I tell people in my company, because it's all about, money and profit, that you have to make an investment. You must make an investment in some sort of spiritual practice, whatever it is, whether it's this or something else, that you cannot continue, going on with all the issues in the world and whatnot without having some sort of a spiritual practice. Like, it's important and stuff. But everything is a lot of work. I'm always huffing and puffing to keep up with myself. It's definitely not easy. I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but that's just, again, how I'm talking to myself these days. Which helps. So another thing also is when things happen when things do happen to me, I kind of feel that I can never claim to be a victim. We're talking about like blaming others for things. Like I cannot claim to ever be a victim in any situation. If something is going wrong, I realize, everyone likes to hear the word karma. We always use this word karma, but to really understand karma on a deeper level, it's to understand that anything that's happening in my life is I was somehow in one way or other complicit in what's happening, whether good or bad, and I need to take responsibility for things, especially with relationships. And at work, a lot of people are on edge, and you have problems with people. So I decided lately that I need to take like full responsibility to set things straight. I can't wait for other people to be a certain way. I need to take a high road, and I need to understand that if someone's reacting to me, or I'm being, like, for instance, like for me, one of the the big things in my life is being defamed, especially at work. That's like a real Achilles heel for me when, you know, someone says something about like the way I work or what I'm doing. And so I realized that I need to, you know, change like the way I think about that. And when I was, when I went to India the first time, in the stairwell of the dormitory where I was staying, there was a sign, and there's many beautiful signs all over the school that give you, you know, little happy sayings and practical sayings. But this one was really impactful for me, and I think about it a lot now. And it said that if you give sorrow to anyone in your words, thoughts, or actions, then you can understand that you will never be able to experience true happiness. And so I'm really careful nowadays also, even at work, that even if someone is defaming me, that I don't get caught up in that I don't have bad feelings for them. And that I work towards, like, you know, work towards having good wishes for that person. That's a big part of things. And so, yeah, I just...
That's, I say that's a biggie to me, because I even remember when I first came to the center and we were learning about, you know, that we're not here to suffer. And I said something like, or give sorrow to people. And I remember I had this realization. I said, well, I don't think I give sorrow, at least I try not to, but I take sorrow because other people hurt me. I remember saying people hurt me with their words, things people say to me, about me, actions. And that was like such a major lesson in my life, that I was taking sorrow. And I could look back at my life and see all the times that I was hurt by things, and I'd say I get hurt. And, you know, hurt can lead to depression, really. I don't think I was like a depressed person, but I think I held feelings of, you know, certain sadness from the way people treated me in certain ways in life. And, you know, I went on, and, you know, it wasn't like I was, because I had so many good things happening in my life. It wasn't like I wasn't thinking about it all the time, but it was still there. And as I worked with that through meditation, and I started to understand this, you know, really, I think sometimes taking sorrow from people, just being hurt by, like you say, someone says something to you, how you are acting or how your work is. I used to get very hurt by like criticism at work and my work, you know, what I did. The same thing as you're saying, that if somebody criticized you, I'd get angry, first angry, then hurt. And it was only really through these teachings that I began to work with this. And now I feel like I can recognize it in a second and know, let me release it. Let me get rid of it. I love what you said about just enjoy, you know. There's such a connection between enjoyment and optimism. When you're optimistic, you're enjoying, right? Think about, you know, when we're not optimistic, and you know, we might not think of ourselves as pessimists, but often I think we do incorporate that into our lives, where we start thinking about, oh, what's going to happen and how long are things going to be bad, and just those negative thoughts, and they turn into negative words. So, I mean, what's coming to me is that we just have to be so aware of the conversations we have with others, and what part are we playing in being the pessimist. We might, you know, if you ask people, you think you're a pessimist, I don't know if anybody's going to say they think that they are, right? But do we have a part of us that does play the pessimist, you know, in certain situations with certain people, relationships, you know, it just kind of rears its ugly head, and we don't even realize that we are pessimistic. And so I think it's awareness. So Brad, maybe just if you want to say a few words about, you know, I think the importance of this time, this confluence age, as we call it in Raj Yoga, and many of you already know about this word if you're, you know, you're already practicing, some of you, and how we really can choose optimism now, no matter what's happening, and the importance of this time in making the connection with the divine energy, with God, and why this is such a special moment in time.
Yeah, you know, for years we've had programs called Call of the Time. It was a program that we set up. It was a lot of VIPs got together, and so that they would be able to take back into whatever work they were doing, or whatever fields they could take back some of these spiritual principles. And I used to cook for these. I used to go over to England, and I used to cook for many of them, and I was in the kitchen, and I never quite felt at that time, like, well, things in the world seem to be, stable back, many years ago. And so I never paid much attention to it, but now I really feel it. I really feel like I can hear like this call for optimism, and that people are really, I mean, no matter where you are in the world. And like I said, I travel all over, and every country, everyone I know in every single country, no matter how much money they have, no matter how successful, everybody is in a state of flux. Everybody is nervous. Everybody's worrying. Just yesterday, one of my vendors said to me, oh, I get into depressed moods all the time now from Hong Kong. And I spent like 20 minutes writing a dissertation to him about, how to like get out of that nosedive. But I think that, being in meditation this long and having had the experiences that, we start to develop a surplus of optimism. And I think that it's just really, it's my duty. It's important to help connect with others, with that, and to touch others. And I just feel that actually there's no greater joy for me personally as when I have a conversation with someone or interact with someone and they come away and tell me, thank you, I got so much out of it. Or the next day they say, that really helped me. It might be a smile, or just asking someone, like, how are you doing? Like I'm so much more aware now, especially in the office where I am every day, of people's moods and how I can see that something's shifted in them. And I always go up and, I spend a lot of time actually doing that, just being aware and listening and being empathetic and, keeping myself stable and in that light so that I could impact others. I just, I see how impactful it actually is. And it's just, we all have to realize that we can be, I love this, the image we use in Raj Yoga is be a lighthouse and a might house. And one time, Daddy Janki, who was head of our organization, who left us in March, when I met with her personally, she looked at me and she pointed to my forehead and she said that when people look at the center of your forehead, they should have a vision of God. And that was like, it kind of like shocked me that she said that, that I could actually be doing that. And it always like stuck in my mind that if people look at my forehead, they should have maybe not see God, but there should be some experience of light and love or whatever they need to take actually. So I'm just, I love being busy in that work. Sometimes I go to the office and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm doing, I'm just there to make money, to, pay for the rent and pay for the car and whatnot. And sometimes it just seems so futile. But then when I go and I realize like, this is like my field of service. Like I'm in this office space. I'm traveling to those countries. I'm going and meeting these people. And it's all the name of what we call service. It's for me to connect and to, be in front of these people. Like, it makes it so much easier. We have to go to something we don't want to go to, any function. And we're like, why am I going here? When I used to go to China, it was so, back in the late 80s, it was so depressing. It was the most down negative energy of any country I'd ever been in. And it was still that very heavy communist, feeling, and there's no color anywhere. And there's only one nice hotel. And I used to go there and get really, really depressed. I had to spend a month at a time. And after a couple of years, I met someone who ended up not only managing our office, but she became the instrument to start Raj Yoga meditation in China. And people that I did business with in like these heavy duty communist government organizations, like 20 years later, would pick me up at the hotel to take me to meditation class. These people that I met that I would sit across a table with and negotiate, and they were very tough and it was like very difficult. They ended up being my spiritual companions. And I realized that, even like just coming to China, I didn't do all the dirty work. She's the one that created all of this, but I came with that package of seeds, and I must have dropped some of the seeds in the ground, and then, things sprouted. So I'm just, I like to think that wherever I go, like my life is about service. Like, how can I be connecting with people and whatnot? So it just, so that's it.
That's a lot. I really appreciate I know that everybody else must. Just your sharing and your insights and your honesty and your dedication to this life, you know. I remember that book years ago, The Path of a Peaceful Warrior. Do you remember that book? It was about the man that was the most yogi. And I'm not comparing you to him, but, he was the guy that ran the gas station, was the gas station attendant, but he had the insights and he had the wisdom, and you are the executive, businessman traveling around the world, and people might not realize it until you connect with them. And then all of a sudden, you're giving all of these insights and spirituality and confidence and just a whole new way of looking at life. You must have a big impact on the world. But Bob is telling us spiritually, our whole spiritual journey is that we all can be, like you say, living lighthouses in whatever it is that we're doing, wherever we are. We have to be that. We have to be that light. So I think, let me just check the time. I think it's 10:30. I think what we'll do is just, if you could just think about, and you don't have to even say it or write it, or just write it to yourself. Just all of you out there, think about one aspect of life where you might want to do something differently that would increase optimism in your life. So you can write that down after and think about that, reflect on that, and write that down. And Brad and I will say goodbye, and we thank you for being with us and being part of this. And we will, if you want to say anything, Brad, and then we'll just go with Marianne with a final meditation for the next few minutes.
Just
short
goodbye
meditation.
Goodbye and Om Shanti. Good luck.
Yeah. Om Shanti to everybody. And I'm just feeling very optimistic after this, and aware of little things that I can do personally to just up that level, and that's what we're doing every day, just upping the level and just getting a bit closer to our more evolved selves and our happier selves who are enjoying life all the time, even with, the challenges that we might be facing. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Om Shanti.